I've burnt out like several times. So all of this, I got to a point in my life I knew that I was hopeless. I couldn't help myself. I've gotten to a place that I had suicidal thoughts. I was depressed and all of that. But
meet Nkem Chinwe Ofunabo, the work-life harmony leader, coach, and author with over 15 years of experience in optimizing well-being and fostering authentic leadership. Stuck in a toxic space? Tune in as Nkem shares practical strategies to achieve harmony, success, and fulfillment in both work and life. When I saw your name and work life, I was about to add work-life balance. I was like, no, she's like work-life harmony. Sounds different.
I know.
Yes, it's good because I always had like this idea of like work-life balance. How can you balance something that's part of life, with life? You know? So I want to know what you want people to listen today, right? They might not have heard of work-life harmony. They might not have heard of the harmonizer. They have, or Nkem, So what do you want them to take out of this conversation? Like, why should they stay till the end?
Okay, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Like, it's really an opportunity for me to put it out there to the world, right? That there's really no balance. Yeah. I want them to take away the fact that work-life balance is an effort of futility.
Okay.
Yeah. What we should be thriving for or striving for is harmony. Because balance tries to put life and work, or maybe work and then your personal well-being on equilibrium or distribution, which really is unrealistic, right? Harmony speaks to alignment. Yeah, because we are used to living a life of survival, trying to juggle our career or business, whichever one you do, that is work for you, your family, and your personal life demands. But then, most of the time, we forget to think of alignment. Forget to think about what is the essence of life.
But what is the essence of life?
What is the essence of life? For you to live a fulfilling, harmonious life where every area of your life is thriving.
This is not easy.
I know.
Depending also on so many factors. We're going to come to that, but I feel, just sitting here and listening to you, I feel like you've done so much work to really harmonize all the aspects of your life. You're calm, you're just bringing out energy.
I wish.
Yeah. Yes, and that positive energy, I can feel how I'm really settling in. So where did it start from? Like, where did you grow up? You're growing up, did you have anything that, prompted this direction right now?
Okay, I will say that I grew up from a very structured, but emotionally supportive environment.
Okay.
In fact, I could remember when I was still working in the corporate, my line manager at some point. So I am someone that I wear my emotions on my face, right? So I cry. When I'm under pressure, I cry. That's my own way of releasing.
Yes.
And so one time she said, Nkem, I'm very sure you grew up with a mother that is so soft and so protective. Because if you grew up with my kind of mother, with the way she talks, you'll be very tough.
Yeah.
So I could say it's from my family background, growing up from an emotionally supportive environment. And so it's easy for me to know when I am drifting away from that life of harmony, that place of well-being to maybe disharmony, right? So it's easy for me to know. And also, of course, growing up, they always say that adulthood is a scam. Growing up, getting into the corporate space, and that's another war zone. Right? Experiencing toxic workplace culture. And of course, in my own personal life, I've experienced turbulent marriage. So all of these things, I have burnt out like several times. So all of this, I got to a point in my life, I knew that I was hopeless. I couldn't help myself. I've gotten to a place that I had suicidal thoughts. I was depressed and all of that. But thankfully for where I worked then and the leadership of that place. Because I could remember that at that point when I was struggling in my marriage, it was impacting my productivity at work, and they were able to see it. In fact, my line manager at some point came to the office one day, as early as unusually early, and said, Nkem, we need to talk. So this is not about productivity, because clearly my figures, and I was in a business development role then, so my figures were really going down. And she said, we need to talk, like, what is going on in your life? And it was at that point in time, I had to open up from a place of vulnerability. I shared what I was going through, and she was able to help me, and I started going through therapies and all of that. So that was when I realized that one experience in an area of my life was having a ripple effect in other important areas of my life. And so I became very deliberate in terms of harmonizing. So I had to take a seat back to reassess my priorities. Like, what is really important? And how can I bring harmony into my life? And that's how the journey started.
From very deep personal experience. Are we mistaken being able to show your vulnerability for weakness?
Exactly.
Is that not, that's an issue in our society, globally?
It is.
Like, you have to be a leader. I remember when I was also in business development space, and you have to carry yourself. You dare not break down. You dare not. You have to be over dominant. Maybe that's not even you, right? But you just have to show up like that. And that tends to be seen as strength.
Masculine energy.
Masculine energy and all of that. Yes, alpha male and now boss lady and all of this. But we're just humans.
Absolutely.
And we have emotions. And I tend to believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I tend to believe that there is even more strength in being able to show your vulnerability.
Absolutely.
I
totally agree with you.
So thank you for sharing that. And also sharing the fact that even your personal life, it will affect your professional space. It will affect you, because you can't come to work and just be a new person, right? But that's sometimes what's expected. And you talked about burnout. And this is one thing that I've been personally so scared of, because I don't even know what it feels like or how it is. Because I've come into situations in my life where I'm like, no, I can't. I don't even want to see tomorrow, right? I start my work, there's nothing coming out from me. So I don't even know, is that burnout? So what is burnout? So that we even get to understand this.
Okay. Truth is, burnout, it's not working hard. A lot of times, people mistake it, and I've been preaching about work-life harmony, and I always see the misconception from people. They always think that when you talk about work-life balance or work-life harmony, you are preaching a culture of laziness. And it's not. If you follow me closely, you can see that I talk a lot about productivity, because I believe that well-being fuels productivity. But then when we're talking about, I needed to clear that.
Yes,
Exactly. Because sometimes when people hear about burnout, they feel like, oh, when I'm working hard, I burn out. No, that's not burnout. By all means, work hard, right? I always preach about achievement and enjoyment. It's when you have achieved something, you won't feel guilty when you are enjoying it, right?
Or having that Monday off.
Exactly. So by all means, work hard. But burnout is more or less a chronic situation
Okay.
where you are in a state of you lack replenishment, right? You are losing your energy, you are hopeless, and it begins to, you become very irritable. You begin to withdraw yourself from social interaction, and you can't even find the energy to do the things that you would naturally do, even when you have rested. I've had a situation whereby even when I wake up from sleep, I am tired. Like, I don't feel like going to work. And then it begins to also affect your sense of worth, right? So it's a whole lot. And then let's not even talk about the physical symptoms, right? The physical symptoms, sometimes begin to lack sleep. And I've had situation whereby I was at work, my fingers, my limbs were just shaking uncontrollably. I had to drop everything I was doing, headed to the hospital. My doctor ran all the checks and said, there's nothing wrong with you physiologically. Do you want me to schedule an appointment with a psychiatrist?
So what I'm hearing is there is like a connection, or like it overlaps with depression. But is burnout often coming from the lack of fulfillment?
Okay. So burnout really it's strictly work related.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact WHO said it's a workplace phenomenon.
Okay.
Yeah. So it comes from, feeling unfulfilled will now be the result.
Okay.
The physical, or rather is a psychological, not physical, the psychological expression of what is happening within you. Yeah. Where you begin to, so burnout could be that, you are doing everything possible, you're working hard, going above and beyond in the workplace, but nobody's recognizing the value you bring to the table. When it comes to promotion, you're overlooked. Promotion, there's toxicity in the workplace, and you are beginning to lose yourself. You're beginning to say, I'm really not fulfilled here in this place. So fulfillment is both psychological and physical and everything, social, right? The interaction, the human interaction, healthy human interaction you're supposed to get with your colleagues, it's not there.
But sometimes I'm wondering, like, because you've talked about toxic workplace, and okay, before we go further, it's important that people understand what toxic workplace is, because I have been an entrepreneur, like, for as far as I can think. So I've not really as an entrepreneur, you get clients and everything. So, but you're not employed under someone to deliver to the person and such stuff. So, a couple of months, or I think 2 years ago, I got into a kind of arrangement. I was supposed to just be independent, but the structures did not allow it. So I was like, okay, let's just do it. We know what we're going to do. Okay. So we got into a kind of work relationship.
With some partners?
Yeah, with a partner. And for the first time in my life, it has never happened to me. But when this was happening, it's like I woke up from a kind of naive slumber. Like, people go through this. Oh my God, we need more empathy in the world. We need to understand. For the first time in my life, the relationship was so toxic. The work relationship was so toxic. I've never thought about such things, that I couldn't sleep. I'll go to bed. I'll be hearing the person. This was weird. I hear the person talking to me. We're having arguments. The person's not there. I'm supposed to be sleeping, right? Then I see the call of the person. My heart starts beating. I'm like, I had to sit down like, no, I can actually just say, no, I'm not doing this contract. Exactly. But I felt too weak to actually exit the contract. For the first time, I was able to relate to, I don't know if it's burnout, but this feeling because I've always been self-employed. I had as an entrepreneur, so I don't have to work for someone.
Mm-hmm.
We have clients, so we have good relationship. But for the first time, I go into a relationship where it somehow seems like a work employee-employer relationship, and I did not know that something like this existed, right? And the moment I started experiencing it, this was the moment I was like, wait, people are experiencing this.
It's usually personal.
Yes,
You
yes.
do not know.
I'm like, how do people, do they still go to work every morning? Because, no, why? This will make you mad. Because there were moments where I will go to bed and I will be having argumentative conversation with this person.
Mm-hmm.
The person's not there, it's just me. I'm not sleeping 2-3 hours into, I'm like,
It's the psychological effect of
I see the call coming from this person,
your heart
my
will start
heart
beating.
will start beating. It got to a point where I was like, I'm feeling it.
Mm.
Like, my heart is beating. Why is my heart beating? Because of this call. I was so bad. Even in my relationship, I took that anger, that fear, that anxiety into my relationship. People were running away from me. My kids were like, Mom, maybe you should let this client go, right? And I had
Those are the impacts.
yeah, I have the possibility to say no, we'll cancel the contract, but I was actually even too scared. It's not like I'm scared.
That's the
Yeah.
lack of enthusiasm.
Yeah,
It's also part of that's what that's the I'll call it the impact
the impact.
of
Yeah.
burnout. Yeah, you lack that enthusiasm to do things. Your productivity will start dropping.
Wow. And I was like, it took a long while until I could really get out of this contract, and because I noticed that this is not healthy. I have to show up for myself, right? Everybody is like, they're all giving me like space now because, okay. And then I started thinking, is this burnout or what is this? But if so, whatever it is, people in an employer-employee relationship and they have to pay their bills and they must keep that job, how do they survive this?
So, from my experience, I know that a lot of us, corporate Nigeria, a lot of professionals, we live in a survival mode. So that's a question now, how did they survive it? We live in a survival mode. But it shouldn't be, right? So so the first thing is to be able to recognize it, like until it happened to you.
Yeah.
Some people might think it's the norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Do you understand?
Yes.
It takes an intentional person who is also very, when it comes to your well-being, you're very intentional. So you know when you are drifting. So the first thing is to be intentional about your personal well-being so that when you are not living up to your optimal, you will know. So detect it, take a pause. And like I said, appraise your priorities, like what is important.
Yeah.
Yes, this job is important. So when I talk about work-life harmony, it's important to know that our other areas of our lives are supposed to coexist, right? No one should, at some point, one should take priority, right?
Yeah.
At some point, work. Because think about it, 24 hours in a day, you are
one
about,
third is work.
Exactly.
1/3 is supposed to be
13,
sleep.
14 hours at work,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes work will definitely take priority. Sometimes your health, your mental health. But you shouldn't allow a situation whereby one is taking priority at every point in time and then you are neglecting the rest. So that's why it's important to reassess your priorities. What is important at every point in time and be able to assign the time for that, right? I told you I have alarms on my phone. So I have alarms. So I want to call my mom, I want to call my dad. I have an aging parents that are falling ill at every point in time. So set systems and structures in your life to prioritize the things that are important to you. So it could be working, right? And you have caregiving responsibilities. You have aging parents, or you have children that probably is just nannies at home with them. But set systems. Time to call the nanny to check up on your children, check up on your spouse. Just build a system that works for you. I can't even tell you this is how it must be, but ensure that whatever system you work, allows you to be able to invest in the important areas of your life.
And
And
often
that you're not neglecting anyone.
yes.
Because when you neglect it, let's take for example your health, or you've been ill, there's a mental condition you've been battling and you're neglecting it because you have work targets and all of that. One day you're going to break down and you can't function
meet
and work.
that work target. Then you don't know what's more important.
You can't function and work. So if you need to, even while you're working, take some time off work to attend to your health, do whatever you have to do, please do. And that's why it's also important that organizations begin to look at individuals just beyond the work environment. Know that these people have personal lives, that whatever happens in their personal life will impact their work.
But whose responsibility is it? Is it the responsibility? Because if when I give that responsibility and say it's the responsibility of the organization to look at employees' well-being, my well-being, if I'm an employee, it's a bit like I am giving that power to the, or losing my power, or having my excuse for not taking care of myself, because it's the duty, the responsibility of the leadership or the organization. So how can this function?
So it's a partnership.
Okay.
It's a partnership. And in my book, I talked about it and I said we need to be able to build an organization where people and business thrive. Because it's a mutual responsibility, right? You employ people because you want your business to grow. Right? So why don't you invest in those assets that are coming in to work, put in all their talent, all their energy, their resources, their time to drive the business success? Why don't you also reciprocate and invest and ensure that they are well? Because a lot of time you talk about, I want our employees to bring their whole self to work. Their whole self includes their relationship and marriage. Their whole self includes their health and their well-being. Their whole self includes their rest, recreation, and fun. Their whole self includes their self-esteem and self-confidence. Their whole self includes their spirituality. Their whole self includes their success and achievement.
But are we not expecting them too much from work? Because I've been thinking about this, like, so one, how do you then shape a workspace to encompass all this? But on the other side, it's also just like relationship. If you're with your partner, it took me a while to learn this. When I was very young, I thought like a partner is going to be best friend, travel buddy, cook, father, everything, right?
Yes.
It took a while to then understand the partnership or even a friendship must not serve all this. That's why you have the friendship, other groups, your parents or your siblings, the partner, your work. You have all these different outlets. In the olden days, it would be like a community, a tribe that serves your different needs. Now, what are we saying? With the way not even workspace, life now generally, especially urban life, right? Where you're disconnected really from, it's even more intense in the West, right? People just live in their small boxes. They don't even know their neighbors. The parents can't even come, you don't really have that connection, that big, large community to support you. Then you bring everything to work and expect then work to be your therapy, to be your gym, to be... Is this possible? How can we design that?
I still repeat that it's a partnership.
Okay.
And everybody have their own responsibility. So your personal well-being is your responsibility. While the employer also has a responsibility to ensure that while at work, that they provide an enabling environment.
Okay.
So for you to live a truly fulfilling life, you as an individual, you have to be intentional about your own life. And really, that was why I wrote my book. My book, even though some aspect of that book talks about the role of organizations to ensure work-life harmony, but first responsibility is you, right? And that's why I started by talking about having more or less like a work-life vision. What do you want for yourself? So that's where you have to look at yourself holistically. Every area of your life, like I mentioned, identify 12 critical areas of your life. What is important to you in those areas of your life? And then, so for all those areas of your life, you need to now know what to begin to do. So if it's your spirituality, how do you build a relationship with your maker, right? If it's your family, home and family, so it could be you and your spouse and your children. It could be for the married ones. It could be your parents, your siblings. How do you build a wholesome relationship with your home and family? If it's relationship and marriage, how do you build a wholesome relationship with your partner, your husband, your wife? Then when you talk about purpose, energy, passion, what are you doing? Have you even discovered who you are? Why God put you here on earth? Why do you wake up every day? What fuels your passion? How do you sustain your energy, right? Then we talk about health and wellness. How do you ensure that you live in a sense of wellness, both physically, right? Well, that's when we talk about eating right, going to the gym and all of that. And then mentally. A lot of time when I talk about therapy, people think that it's far-fetched. It's important that you go for therapy.
Especially males. I don't want to generalize, but males.
Go for therapy. Ensure that your sense of wholeness is assured. A lot of things happen, even in this climb. People, even work relationship, friendships and all of that can throw you off balance. But how do you stay centered within yourself, right? And then we talk about rest, recreation. Do you even get enough sleep?
Yes.
Do you do things for fun? Good sleep. Do you do things for fun? I always tell people that sleep is my therapy, right? When I don't sleep well, I know something is wrong with me.
You won't want to know me the next day.
Exactly. Do you understand?
Yes,
do you do things for fun? Do you recreate? It doesn't, all these things doesn't have to be expensive. Oh, I have to travel to Maldives and all of that. No. Within your cycle, what can you do to
It's also the consistency, because if you want to wait till that 2 weeks or 1 week in a year that you get to travel somewhere, what about the remaining 340 days or something?
Exactly. Exactly. So, friendship and social network. How wholesome is your network? So it's not about the quantity, but the quality of your friendship. And I always pray about my friends. So pray and ensure that when you are pouring into them, they are also pouring into you. So be intentional about your friendship. What area of our life have I not talked about now? So as an individual, look at the critical areas of your life and ensure that you are investing in them. When you are whole in all these things, there's no way you won't be whole at work. Because your well-being fuels your productivity.
Yes.
And then as an employer, what can you do? And so that's where, of course, my organization, I've spent time, years, helping organizations build HR structures or strategies that will help ensure that your employees, or rather provide that enabling environment to ensure that your employees are whole. It starts from your culture. What kind of culture do you have in the organization? And do you live out those culture? Is it practicalized?
Yes.
So in your practices, do you live out? Some people will come and say, oh, integrity is our culture, is our core value and all of that. But you see them cutting corners. You see them cutting corners. You're not living them. Do you understand? Does your leaders embody those core values? Do they live it out? Do you even have, so let's even talk about maybe line manager and subordinate relationship. You find out that most leaders lack empathy. There's no psychological safety within the organization. And when people lose it, because sometimes they will lose it, what are the measures that you've put in place to address complaints, address conflicts, do you understand, within the organization? Let's even go to jobs. Sometimes people resume jobs, they don't have a job description, they don't know what they are supposed to do. Today they will tell you do this, tomorrow you are doing another thing. You will be confused. Or build systems or build structures that when people come into the organization, they know what they are supposed to do. They are rewarded when they go the extra mile. So there's recognition, there's reward system in place, there's career growth. I don't want to find myself doing one thing for 10 years and not growing, you're not promoting me. I'm just static. In fact, at some point in my career, that was why I resigned. Because I felt like I'm not doing what I want to be doing.
And there's no
even though I
opportunity for
put
growth
in, and there's no
anymore.
opportunity for growth.
Yes.
Even when I'm putting in all my energies, meeting my target, exceeding my target, I'm not getting the promotion.
Yeah.
Right? Those things will not give you fulfillment. Right? So ensure that you invest in the talents that you have hired within the organization. Let them be able to see their career growth within the organization. And let them see that there are things in the organization that we want to keep them. So what are your employee value proposition? What are those things that when they go outside, they brag about the organization? Some of our parents worked in a particular organization for 20 years. And you could see how they grew in that space. But some organization, you are at one level for 10 years. And maybe you get salary review for once or twice. Those things are not fulfilling. People will just be coming to work, presenteeism. They are just there, they are not fulfilled, they are disengaged, and you'll be complaining about productivity. These are the reasons why you are not productive as an organization. So it's a partnership.
Yeah, it's a partnership. Thank you for elaborating this connection, the partnership between the employer and the employee. It's more like a yin and yang, you know. They have to bring both. Both of them have to bring something to the table so that there's growth on both parts, right?
Absolutely.
And this is very interesting because there's so many ways. Like I'm thinking how in the future, because of the way the workspace is changing seriously, and it's going to continue to change. Hybrid models will be there. There will be digital tools that will, like newsletters, for example.
It's actually not the future.
Well, it's going to be like, I won't say was. It's going to be so intensive in the sense of there are things that people really think they are so important doing that artificial intelligence will just do it. So even people will tend to lose more of their purpose or their reason for being there in the first place if there is no, from the perspective of the organization, no concept for the next 10 years, right? And also for the person personally. Hey, this is Bold with Joe. We are excited to bring African voices and stories to the forefront. The way you can support us is just to press that like button, subscribe, share, tell your friends about us, and drop your comments so we know what matters to you. You want to know all the beautiful shows I am preparing for you? Go to Bold with Joe. Now, back to the show. When we had the break, we were just gisting a bit about coaching and the idea of therapy not being ingrained in the African culture. It's more Western kind of thing. But I'm like, no. We have always done therapy. You know, when you go to your auntie, if you need an advice, or if you go to the salon, or if you go to your grandparents, you know, to pour your heart out. And what do you say about this? Because I'm wondering, no, we have always had therapy. It's just probably now labeled differently in terms of the Western context of you have a coach or someone that's certified. But how do you see this?
So I totally agree with you when you said we've been practicing coaching and therapy even in the past and still current, right? But I think the only difference here is the expertise.
Okay.
Because why do you go to school? It's to acquire, of course, some form of expertise, right? And so when it comes to coaching as well and therapy, there are different principles. For example, just for what you said now, one of the principles of coaching is that you don't coach a family member.
Oh, really?
You don't coach your spouse.
Oh, that would be nice.
Exactly. Because sometimes, so you don't associate their trauma. Yeah. Because there's some relationship that is personal, and they might start judging you based on what they know about you and all of that. So that's why when it has to do with a family member, a spouse, please refer them to an expert.
But how do you break the ice then? If you're saying, maybe that's why people are a bit like reluctant about therapy generally, because knowing that I have to now become vulnerable. We're coming back to vulnerability,
Of
right?
course.
I think this is so important. We have to, how do I now become vulnerable enough to open up to a stranger?
It's tough, right? And I don't think there's any fast rule to it, really, because I've also had to, even as an expert, go for therapy.
Yeah.
Right. But I think when we talk about it enough and begin to see the impact, I mean the positive impact of it, people will then be able to embrace it. I could tell you for example, at some point in my life, because I was living with my younger sister and our relationship was kind of not in a very good place. And that was the period I started my coaching journey.
Okay.
And I realized that after my coaching training and everything, my relationship with her became very, very healthy.
Yeah.
Right? So there are so many things I have learned about myself.
So self-work.
Yes, the inner work.
Yeah.
The inner work. It's not something you have to, I don't know how to say it. You can't force someone. It has to come from within. And it's until that person experiences it, whether it's coaching or therapy, before they can see the benefits.
Then when do you let go? Because you say you can't force someone. So if there's someone that doesn't want to like do the self-work, and then you're still caught in that toxic relationship, when do you have to burn out first before as a sign to let go? When do you now, like, or do you even let go? Or do you stay committed to trying to support that person to do the self-work?
So it depends on where you're coming from, right? Am I coming from a place of, we are just friends, right? Or maybe we're in a relationship, right? So if we're in a relationship and I am very intentional about my well-being, and I can see that we are clearly in a toxic relationship, right? I go for therapy, and there is need for you, my significant other or my partner, to go for therapy, and you are not buying the idea, of course that relationship, you can never amend it. You can never amend it. The only thing is that you will learn, you'll be armed with the tools to
cope,
self-preserve,
okay.
more or less preserve yourself. And sometimes people learn by what observation. So by the time they start observing you, probably before now we have an argument, you raise your voice, you shout, and you don't anymore. But sometimes we can even be the ones enabling toxicity. We don't know, right?
That's true.
And the person realizes that, oh, when I try to bring up argument, you don't enable me anymore.
Yeah.
But they'll be like, what is changing? What is changing about her? They begin to observe that you yourself are changing. And sometimes they're not asking, what's going on? What has changed? And that's when you can now say, I've come for therapy, I did this, these are the things that I'm learning, and all that. And the person, if he or she truly wants to preserve that relationship, cares about that relationship, and wants to be committed to that relationship, will eventually go for his or her therapy or start the inner work. But if they don't, and you care about yourself so much that I can't continue in this toxicity, you can decide, you know what, I take a walk. Or you can, or decide, you know what, let me just keep hoping, let me just keep preserving myself and extending grace to this person. And hopefully, your hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, hope is not a strategy. Even though I hear a lot of hope. Well, in your book, you talk a lot about, you focus also more around personal responsibility, what one needs to do. And that leads us to your organization. You have an organization.
Yes.
The work-life organization. Tell us what's like the most common question or needs that people coming to your organization seek.
So I established it in 2019 when, of course, I saw a gap. Right? And that gap is that most organizations focus more on productivity while neglecting personal well-being.
Mm.
But like I said earlier, well-being fuels productivity, right? So when I saw that from my own personal experience, of course, when my life was in disarray, I could see that it also impacted my work, productivity, and all. And it was until I became very intentional about my own personal well-being. I had to do the inner work, like we talked about.
Yes.
And I think that was even when I realized that the work I was doing is not even what I was supposed to do. Because then I was in a sales role.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is not who I am. This is not what I want to do in the long run. And so part of the things I did was I went for my own coaching certification, trained as a coach, and I started writing this book. I was still in that job, but of course I knew already what is important and where I was headed to. Started writing my book while I was in my very busy corporate work. That was also when I started my business, registered my business, and I started offering personal coaching to people because at some point I came out and shared my own personal story. It's not something we always like to put out there. I had a turbulent marriage, my marriage failed and all of that. I had to leave a very abusive marriage they said leave to live, right? Yeah, I had to leave to prioritize myself to live, right? And did the inner work. And I came out and I talked about my stories. Oh my goodness. That was when I realized that people were going through a lot. DMs, people opening up to me. In fact, the first time I got a coaching client, of course, then I haven't even certified, from the United Kingdom, sharing what she was going through in her marriage, in her own personal life, and all. And that was when I knew that whatever it is I went through was preparing me for what is ahead of me. And so, when I started my organization, the first services then was coaching.
Okay.
Right. Coaching, busy, overwhelmed, burnt out professionals and executives, right? That was how I was able to launch myself out. I think that was also where the name, the Harmonizer, came from, because I realized that I was helping them to harmonize their life. Yeah. Really. Because at the end of the day, it's the result. Harmonization, well-being is the outcome of everything, the coaching that we do and all. And with that personal work, I realized that, okay, when you're done coaching this person, he or she is going back to work where there is no structure, where there is no system.
How do you carry
that will also either throw them off balance and all. That's when I realized that there's a lot of work to be done in the corporate space as well. So it's not, I told you it's a partnership. Yes. It's not just the individual, the personal well-being. The corporate structure, systems has to also enable these individuals to live that life of well-being. And so I started offering HR consultancy, helping organizations build the right culture. Because it starts from culture. Culture is your way of life. So whatever happens in your organization, whether you're intentional about it, it's your culture. If you want your culture to be chaotic, if you want it to be toxic, it's how you want it to be. But if you want it to be healthy, empowering, you have to be intentional about it. So, of course, we do offer organizational development, culture transformation, HR consultants, where we can come in as probably your HR retainer and help you just do an audit of your HR systems and know exactly what you have on ground, what are the gaps, and then we start putting in the structures in place. It could be rewriting your culture codes, establishing your culture pillars, and the core values of the organization, putting your policies, your procedures in place and all of that, helping you with your hiring, that's recruitment and all of that. So just, it could also be leadership development where we coach your leaders, because leaders are the ones that drive the culture. And if leaders are able to embody well-being, if leaders are empathetic, Because what I realize that most leaders are still living in the outdated leadership style. Where it's about productivity. You see humans as
because
as a machine,
but it
drive them.
Yeah, but somehow this HR, human resources, this name comes from back then. Or when you now translate it now into the system we live, the economic system, a more capitalist system that we all live in global space. When you say human resources, we tend to view humans as a resource, and in an economical capital system, resources are often meant to be exploited to gain maximum benefit. So when you look at human labor now and say it's a resource of its own, then so the company has this resource, just like the other machine they bought, to exploit. So sometimes I'm wondering, like, if the concept of all, like, human resource, the concept is maybe, should we reshape this concept, the labor, the work time of someone, what they bring? Because human resource is just limiting it somehow to the exploitative value that you can get out of that resource.
I agree with you. That true. Sometimes it's not even when you hear the word resource, it connotes exploitation. Maximize it. Right? But I think we have to begin to look at humans as not just assets. Right? And begin to see the humanity. They are people. That's why some organizations don't even call it human resources anymore. They call it, so there's an organization I worked with, they call it people management. They call it chief people officer. To see people, as human with emotions.
Yes, because the language we use for matters.
Exactly. So maybe we begin to and think about human-centric strategies, initiatives to bring into the workplace and remove that mindset of resources, exploitation, and begin to see them as people that need preservation, people that need to be optimized. Because when they are not optimized, you can't see the return on investment. You can't see that productivity, whatever your productivity metrics are, you can't see them.
But is this ever the case that, because I'm trying to learn how to curate this concept and how we can take it forward, and also looking from the perspective of entrepreneurs or business people or employers, have you ever noticed situations where, because the employer is so really cares about the human, their needs, how they show up, right? Tries to bring in this wellness. Then the employees misuse that, like, this person is to stop, this one doesn't know, have you ever seen such situations that happen? And if yes, how do you now check and balance this?
Absolutely. In fact, there was a time in 2020 when COVID struck. Like, we all went remote
home office.
Exactly. So we all started working from home. And surprisingly, the first few years, it was quite productive. In fact, I got a recommendation 3 months after. I got a recommendation that all the people working remotely, of course, there are some essential services that will still come to the office. All the people working remotely, we've really seen those that are so invested, so productive. My name was there and all of that. And it was because I now have time to do other personal things and all of that, still while maintaining discipline, right? In fact, I could remember my line manager, there was a recommendation she gave me still on LinkedIn, that even if it's 12 a.m., Nkem will deliver, right? I could be sleeping, send the report 12 a.m. and I sleep till 8 o'clock. That's 8 hours of sleep. I got enough, right? So for me, it's about discipline first. It's a partnership, right? The employee yourself, you have to be disciplined, knowing that you are being paid for this work, right? And so when we talk about integrity demands that you commit the time, the energy, the resources to do this work when you are supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Deliver, possibly go above and beyond and deliver, right? But then also, I know that a lot of people take it for granted because after some years, the MD said, "We're not making money anymore. Everybody, we're bringing everybody back to the office."
I've seen that happen to you. Come back to work.
Everybody come back to work because we realized that some people started having multiple jobs because nobody's watching, they're not doing side hustles and all of that and misusing the opportunity. So it means that there's no integrity because integrity demands that your employer is paying for 8 hours of your day. Give them that 8 hours of your day. Then you have other hours. In fact, you are close home. You can watch your child. Do you understand? You can cook. Even if it's just 5 minutes, enter the kitchen, cook. So just plan yourself. Create a system that works for you, that you give your work time, the time that is required, and give your family time. So that fieldness has to be there. Right? But a lot of times employees are not disciplined. So it now requires employers to put in place systems to manage. Some people even micromanage. But it's just to manage, to track your presence, your being productive. Because you can also find out that even those that are 100% on site, some people still don't give their best. So people at their workstation watching movies on YouTube, Netflix, chit-chatting, moving from one desk to the other. Some people are also not productive. But I think we have to start looking beyond the hours of time that someone spends on their desk to looking at what is the actual result, expected results, right? And ensuring that people are delivering on that, really irrespective of where they are, whether they are at work or at home, or just nomads living anywhere in the world, but delivering on what we call productive. So what is our productivity metrics? And how can we ensure that it's being measured, it's being tracked?
And even you talked about being home and then you can cook for 5 minutes and all this, but one other aspect is there is so much unpaid so-called domestic or family-oriented job. This is a job, full-time job actually, because if
I had
a LinkedIn
live with a colleague of mine over the weekend, and I said, any woman that the husband will tell you, please stop working and stay at home, please demand a salary.
Yes.
It's a full-time job.
I am an advocate for that.
Yes.
I'm like,
it's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job, right? Or if you can't demand a salary, very easy. I think the government should change the rules in Western countries. No, very easy. My proposal is the employer asks, is your wife a full-time homestay or is your husband a full-time home? Yes. If they say yes, good. Please send the account of that person. The salary that we split it 50%.
I don't know about Nigeria.
It won't even work out. No, split it, because I had this argument and then with someone and they were like, but the person working, it be the man or the woman working full-time, pays for the bills and everything. I said, no, it's about empowerment. The woman that will clean or the man that will clean, babysit, change diapers and everything, or take up the old parents, they also want at the end of the month maybe to just have that ping, money came in. Then they will pay their part of the rent. If there is an empowerment in that process of giving ownership to the person.
They can invest from that money.
Yes. So there's something about just having your own, especially for women. I don't know, but for me, I want to have my credit card or my card and pay my bills.
I want to buy ice cream. You can buy ice cream.
Yes, I don't want to, darling, do you know? No, the moment, because I also saw that growing up with my parents. I think that was also the moment I was like, this is not going to happen to me. Even my mom said, don't let this happen to you. Like, every penny,
you have to demand from your spouse.
You even have to create a concept of how to demand. Do you get? Also, they have to smile more so that, no, this is so disempowering for people that rely on this financial freedom, especially people in domestic space. And then if that kind of person there's always it's always difficult for them to grow in professional space because even if maybe they just have a part-time job to support, they can't do so much because of the domestic work, but the lack of self-value and worth that they experience at home with these mundane things that we just think is 5 minutes, it's like at that time, it's overwhelming, and nobody really says thank you, and then you go to your workspace, you can't really show up your full self, right? So sometimes I wonder how does someone juggling this, and she might even not even be going to a workspace. It might be a mompreneur, so she's doing all these things and still building a business on the side. How do you now come to work-life harmony? How do you find that harmony?
It's challenging, even just saying it. It's not my reality, but I can imagine it. Even me as a single woman, I have my business. Of course, I've always had my career.
Yeah.
There's a limit to the domestic job that I do.
Exactly.
There's a limit. In fact, at some point I said, when it comes to cooking is the least interesting thing for me. I don't get into it. Is it cleaning the house?
Yeah.
Is it laundry? I don't do all those things.
But some women do not want to have to help because there's a notion of if you can do everything,
So
you're strong.
That's where I'm going to. I said, outsource. Seek for help. We're in Nigeria, and thank God we have that communal.
Yeah, we have the
where you can
opportunity
ask family members to come and
you can get help. It's still affordable.
It's affordable. You can have someone come in, take your laundry, wash them, iron them. Do that. You can have someone that will shop for you.
Yes.
Cook for you. Prepare like a meal plan for the whole week. Put it in your freezer.
Yes.
Just make life easy for yourself. Maybe the ones that you know that, hey, this one is a no-go area. Or I have to make sure my husband's food, I have to be the one to prepare it. Or pick my children from school because of the security issues around it. But just know your limits. So that you can preserve yourself. So we're talking about work-life harmony also. It's not just about people that work in the corporate space. Even housewives or, like you said, mompreneurs and all that have their own business. Think about outsourcing. Corporate organizations do it. There's some roles or some form of function that they know that I don't want to deal with the stress here. Let me outsource it to a company that will handle it. Focus on your key roles or functions,
strengths,
and outsource. Really.
Wow. Yes. Thank you so much.
Learn how to.
Me too. I have to learn how to outsource, but I'm beginning to really outsource because I'm in another phase of my life right now.
We women like to be superheroes.
That's true.
We want to be superheroes.
I don't know where it comes from but there's this notion of good woman.
Yeah.
Good woman. She's everything. No, I'm not everything. I can't be everything. I don't even want to be everything. I want to be me. I shop for myself full time. There's space, you can have it. But it takes a while for young people growing up. It's when they hear such conversations, they get to meet you, see your work, read your book, they get to understand another perspective of life, right? Because now what educates young people? I mean, the digital world educates young people. And what you see in the digital world, you only see us like this when we're made up, right? This is not how I look when I wake up. Well, you don't want to see me when I wake up. Yeah, so you see the best when you go to digital spaces. And then you tend to, as a young person, internalize that as, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. That's a norm. But why do I look like this? Why don't I have enough that? So I think it balances it when we really do open up and talk about life. This is how this is life. Yeah.
When you share stories, people will realize that they are not alone in their own struggles.
Yes.
Yeah, and you get all the supports you have. You don't have to experience all the negative things. Learn. That's why mentorship is there also. Yeah. When people tell you their own struggles, how they're able to overcome them.
Yeah.
And put those lessons in your own life and save yourself all the struggles.
Yeah, that's so true. So for listeners now listening or people watching, what is one thing that you now realize if you compare it to like your belief about life
Mm-hmm.
growing up,
Mm-hmm.
what is one thing that you were like, no, it's different? Do you have something like that where you now realize like, no, I could do it different, or it's different, or accept it to be different?
One thing I've realized is that rest or self-care is not selfish.
Yes.
It's not selfish, really, because for me it's a necessity, right? And if you want to be able to give your best to the world, you have to be at your best. At all time, you have to fuel yourself, you have to preserve yourself. So whatever you do, whether it's rest, whether it's self-care, whatever it is, even whether it's personal development, just know that you are doing it for yourself first. And you are empowering yourself or equipping yourself to give your best to the world.
That's true. That's so important, because I remember like growing up around the concept of, especially women, you had to be like selfless. You have to sacrifice. It's always, I keep hearing it till today actually. You have to sacrifice. Okay, there are places you make compromises, but that concept of you have to sacrifice everything to.
Mothers did that
Yes.
a lot, and are they proud of about it? I'm not sure.
And the health implications that comes from
Exactly.
that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because when I was publishing my book, my mom, the way she said it, I know it came from a place of regret. She said something like, I wrote several manuscripts, I couldn't publish them.
What she
You know,
could
I
have
was-
achieved, her
know,
true purpose. Yeah.
Exactly. And I told her, I must make sure I help you achieve this goal, right? Of course, because she was running everywhere to take care of her children.
Yeah, we
her
understand,
family,
and that's
all
the
of that.
capacity they had.
Exactly.
Yeah, at that moment.
Yeah, but we have to begin to think about ourselves.
Yes.
I'm not saying be selfish.
Put yourself first,
Put yourself first.
because you have to show up.
I started my business or registered in 2019, right? And that was when I started my exit plan.
Yeah.
Eventually, I resigned 2020 December. I started running my business 2021 years. And somewhere along the line, I got an invitation to come head employee relations and wellness in a new bank. And so I packed up my business, went back again to 9 to 5, I started working. From there, I moved to become head of HR in another organization where I was burnt out. In fact, I resigned with immediate effect. I didn't give notice and all of that. And that period was a moment of redefining myself again. What really am I called to do? And that was when I got the revelation that I've given you something in your hands.
Yeah.
A work-life organization. But you abandoned it.
Maybe fear. Were you afraid?
Fear.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, maybe I haven't reached to that
You're not
place
enough.
of expertise.
Yes.
I'm not enough. Imposter syndrome.
Yes. I
and
know
all of
that. Yes.
And I felt, okay, going back to an established organization will give me that
experience and some reputation enough. Yes.
And I got burnt out. And eventually, when I got that knock on my head, I said, no, there's no going back. If not now, when?
Yes.
So,
yes. I think it's just so interesting how, no matter where we're from or how we know each other or how long, the themes that we share are just the same. Actually, they're just the same. Even starting this media company has been on my list. I have already started. Then I was like, no, let me go and take up this job. That was then the job that burnt me, like,
yes.
you know. So somehow it was like the universe of God saying, you already have your thing. Why can't you? But I was afraid. What if it doesn't work? What if I don't?
Fear.
Yeah, you know.
But we just have to stop living from. We just have to start living a life of confidence.
Well, I think we are focusing. I think it's also
Instead of
fear
fear.
from expectation of others, because I realized that when I looked inwards, this is what I like to I want to do it. Then the fear is not there. But when I start looking outwards, like,
what will people say?
Yeah. How do you even cope with that? How because we really need to try, because it's not like we've fixed it. It will still come to the next milestone, right? Yeah.
Sure. My career, I've always had people throw stones at me at every point in time. I remember when I finished my coaching training, and then of course I was in business development role. I haven't even moved back or transitioned to human resources. And so I put out my LinkedIn profile and I wrote life coach, HR professional, or HR leader, something. I got calls from people that feel that they are experts. Why would you write HR leader? Are you a leader? Are you a HR professional?
Oh my God, that's so hard.
Direct call. Even in some WhatsApp group, they were discussing about me.
How my God, that's
how
so hard.
I am an imposter.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think it affected me. I won't lie, I'm human. It affected me, but knowing my calling, knowing my purpose, knowing your why is very important.
Yes.
Right? Of course, the people that called me, I told them, whatever I put out there, I'm on a journey. I'm transitioning. And it's because it's what I see. That is what I put it out there. Did it eventually materialize? Yes. I have become all that. I have done that. I've proved it. And right now, I don't have anything to prove to anybody.
Yes. But the need to justify your existence in that space.
You have to at every point in time.
It's painful.
You need to know yourself.
Yeah.
You need to know yourself and ensure that you have received, I don't know who you believe in, but I believe in God.
Yeah.
And I always prioritize before I take any step. I remember when you talked about second book, I said I haven't gotten the signal to write a second book. Until I get the signal that this is it, I am head on.
But you have to be open to be able to receive, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you will get that signal there. You'll be so stubborn not to even pay attention to it. You don't listen to yourself, right? Just the external thing. So it's always like, how do you listen? So we then come back to well-being, understanding yourself, taking that time for yourself, and the things you've shared today, how to balance work,
rest.
Yeah.
So you have to retreat sometimes in life, especially when you begin to feel burnt out.
Yeah.
It's a signal for you to retreat.
Okay.
Take it back, sit and reassess what is happening in my life.
Yeah.
At what phase or what point in life am I in?
Yes.
What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And assess yourself again. So reassess, recreate, so that you can show up again and recharge.
So how can the listeners join you on this journey and be part of this? And if they want to get a coaching or be part of the, profit from the services you have on your organization, how can they get involved? Are we expecting anything? Yeah.
So this year I have a whole lot planned.
Okay.
Of course, writing or publishing a book is not part of it. I am building. In Africa, I haven't seen that. Not even in Nigeria.
So you're coming up with something that we should look out for.
Coming up with something for corporates.
Yeah. Yes. Nice.
Corporate, really, because I've realized that we do everything possible to drive well-being, productivity. But we've forgotten that well-being fuels productivity. So I'm coming up with something that will drive well-being,
solve that and
workplace harmony.
Thank you. And the book as well,
the
right?
book is always there.
It's always
the book is there on Amazon, it's on my personal website. If you follow me on all social media platforms, my personal brand is Nkem everywhere. My corporate brand is the Work Life Organization everywhere. And
we're going to share the link beneath that you can see it right now. Yes. And but we have like a closing tradition.
Okay.
Yes. 2 questions. Is there something that we've not discussed that it's really on your heart and you're like, let's talk about it, let's brush about it? Is there something that we've not discussed?
Thinking about it, when I was entering here, right, I saw this place. I said, okay, I'm coming here as a guest, so you're going to ask me all the questions. I think it's important that I also ask you. Because when I see people doing things, especially the things that I would love to do, I always ask them, What's your why?
Oh,
Yes, the question is you.
yeah, what's my why? Yeah, so personally, and then professionally, like the word personally, my why is I just want to learn. I want to learn. I seek knowledge. This is what drives me. I wake up wanting to know, understand more deeper about myself and how I connect with the ecosystem. And if I can find how I can learn, share that with the world. So I really want to make learning exciting and accessible to people. Yeah, and for BWJ, Bold with Joe, I think the mother continent, Africa, has a lot to say. We have a lot of experience, and we have our voice. We have our issues that we need to open up and talk about, be vulnerable enough to talk about it to the world, so that we can actually start crafting solutions. We matter, our topics matter, and that's why we have this platform, to be able to start, providing access to have conversations. Yeah, so that's actually the main thing is learning. That's me.
I love that. For me, I know I've learned a lot from you as well.
No, well, I've learned so much.
I know I've learned a lot, and I see possible
Yes.
collaboration.
Yes, I look forward to it. And thank you so much, because I feel like I could sit with you for hours and have conversation, because there's so many areas, but this is not the end. You're going to come back here as we grow, we get bigger. We really appreciate the first set of guests that we have. We want to have them back on the platform and also see their growth and share, and then have projects. So the last closing question is, if you had everything, all the resources, tools, money, time, great health, everything, emotional satisfaction, everything you can desire, imagine, that's good for you, what would you do with your time, your life?
Okay. There's one desire in me, and that is to create a global wellness hub, like around the world,
Yeah.
where people, leaders, professionals can retreat, just come, rediscover themselves, again, find their purpose, and regain the energy to go out there and shine their light to the world.
Wow. I look forward to coming there. Thank you so much, Nkem. It's been a really, really beautiful conversation, and I've been able to learn so much, and also being able to share, hear your part of your side of the whole story, and your input, and how you try to make it the responsibility of the employer and the employees. That's so important. You looking into the workspace, making it conducive, right, for whatever personal work the person has done, right? They need to still be able to live in a conducive environment. This work that you do, thank you for this work. And yes, I really look forward to reading more books from you. And so I'm going to put the link in it so you can see where you get the book on Amazon. This is my camera, yes. You can get the book. And yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. We don't always get accolades for the work that we do, even though the ones we do at the background
yeah.
and all of that. But thank you.